Jenna here, and I can't help but wonder what my life would be like now if my mom hadn't fallen ill. Everything changed when she died when I was 6 years old. We used to live in a house where she would laugh all the time, and pictures of our happy family would adorn every wall. Dad took it very hard. He hardly spoke for months, doing little more than going to work and returning home. To avoid disturbing him, I did my best to remain silent. At the time, I didn't really grasp the concept of death. I couldn't stop wondering when Mom would return from heaven. My dad would envelop me in an embrace and be silent. After he ran across Sandra at a company event, I saw my dad's smile brighten as she began dropping by for dinner. I suppose that's why I remained silent when, one by one, pictures of Mom began to vanish from the walls to be replaced with ones featuring Sandra. One night, Dad remarked, "Jenna, Sandra, and I have something to tell you." I was so anxious that I fiddled with the bottom of my dress when they placed me down in our living room. "My wife, Sandra, and I are tying the knot. She will become your new mother and reside with us. Everything will be wonderful. You'll see." Still, it lacked greatness. Sandra wasted little time in instituting change after their return from their honeymoon. In addition to painting the walls and rearranging the furniture, she also instituted what she dubbed house rules. She would mention, "Jenna, your room is a mess again," each morning. She should keep her room neat and organized. "Additionally, I am experiencing a headache, so I ask that you play quietly." I was obligated to assist with household tasks from the age of 6 onwards. Dad would simply tell me to listen to Sandra, "Honey," whenever I would vent to him. "She is well versed in your best interests." Their argument was audible to me in their bedroom on a particular day. In an effort to decipher the words, I leaned my ear to the door. "The reason she isn't adjusting well," John, Sandra was explaining, "it could work out better if she moved in with your mom. I miss having family around," she says time and time again. "Just know," Dad spoke softly, "I gave Sarah my word. Before she even started, Jenna will be taken care of, I promised. And then there's the education fund for Jenna that she left behind. I promised that it would be used for her schooling." Unbeknownst to me at the time, things were going to get considerably more challenging. Everything changed once again when Sandra became pregnant a year later. Dad was ecstatic, and Sandra couldn't stop gushing about having her own child. I was someone else's child, not her own, and those words hurt more than any rule or chore she had ever given me because of that. She never truly belonged to it. My age was 8 years old when Emma was born. Standing in the hospital hallway with Dad, I looked out the window of my sister's nursery and remembered how new she was. With her little pink blanket enveloping her, her father couldn't help but smile. "You're officially a big sister now, Jenna," he exclaimed with a smile. "Won't you lend a hand with Emma's care?" I gladly nodded, but I didn't get its true significance. But I learned the hard way. It didn't take long for Sandra to make me her personal assistant after they got Emma home. "Send new diapers my way, Jenna." "Clean these bottles, Jenna." "Hey, Jenna, could you please hold Emma while I take a call?" The requests were constant. I was able to change diapers, make baby formula, and make basic baby meals by the time I was 9 years old. Emma needed me to mash bananas and mix rice cereal while her peers played outdoors after school. When Sarah's birthday party was approaching, I distinctly remember begging on a Saturday to help pay for it. "You must be present for Emma," Sandra stated angrily. "She's quite sensitive right now because she's teething. Plus, someone should really go ahead and tidy up the playroom after her." My duties expanded in tandem with Emma's development. As she learned to walk, I had to keep a close eye on her to make sure she didn't trip or choke on anything she shouldn't have. At the same time, Emma received an abundance of presents and attention. With each tantrum, a fresh toy or treat was doled out. Emma discovered at the age of 4 that she could provoke me whenever she pleased, and she certainly made good use of that power. On one occasion, she purposefully spilled her juice all over her brand-new clothing before frantically running to Sandra in tears. I was pushed by Jenna. She sobbed. That weekend, I stayed indoors and did nothing. She also blamed me the time I destroyed her pricey musical toy. She asserted that Jenna was the one whose playtime caused it to break. Being in the middle of my homework at the time was irrelevant. To pay for the replacement, I had to take a month off of my stipend. The most horrible thing was when she used scissors to rip her own party dress and then stashed the blades in my bag. During one of Sandra's room inspections, she discovered them. What gives you the right to feel envious? I got a roar out of Sandra. The price of that dress was, do you know? Yet I failed to. I did my best to clarify. Go to your room, Dad said, cutting you off. Later, we will talk about your penalty. Standing in the doorway, Emma grinned at me as I passed by. I was always the one who was accused, but she had figured out early on that she could get away with anything. My sole refuge from the insanity at home was Grandma Rose. Going to her house on weekends was like entering a magical realm where I could let my guard down and play like a child again. Unconditional love and the aroma of freshly baked cookies permeated her home. Look at you, skin and bones, Mom would remark as she piled pancakes onto my plate. That woman has you twirling like a fairy tale princess. In contrast to my home life, I was free to let my guard down and giggle uncontrollably at Grandma's house. The one time Emma came to see me, she realized right away that her normal strategies wouldn't work. But I want ice cream before dinner. Stomping her feet, Emma moaned. Young lady, she stated with conviction, in this house we eat our dinner first, and there's no reward for tantrums. After that, Emma never returned. Our grandma's house is dull. She informed our dad that everyone was subject to grandma's house rules, was her point. The turning point arrived the following day. It just so happened that Grandma was visiting when Emma threw a major tantrum overdoing her homework. John, Grandma sternly told Dad, I can't stand how spoilt that kid is. Please, Sandra, do a better job of dealing with this. You have a future dictator on your hands. Anger spread across Sandra's face. Your criticism of my parenting is outrageous. Who are you to claim this? I have every right when I see my granddaughters being treated so differently. She responded, Look at what you're doing to Jenna. Afterwards, I overheard additional yelling from the lower level. Sandra, who was visibly upset, made it clear that she would not up for such contempt. Like clockwork, Dad rallied behind her. Sandra told me the following day that we would not be going to see Grandma Rose again. But it's unfair? No, I said. Life isn't fair, Sandra yelled and became angry. And until you're a college student, you won't be allowed to contact her unless I catch you. The term college became an anchor for me. I dove headfirst into my studies during the following 2 years, eagerly anticipating graduation. Over and over again, I overheard my dad discussing how my mom had left money for my schooling. With that cash, I could finally escape. Graduation day arrived afterwards. Dad and Sandra had a serious conversation with me regarding college while I was still wearing my cap and gown. Without making eye contact, Dad began. That money will instead be put toward Emma's education. They said. Everything froze. What do you mean? Your sister has such promising future prospects, Sandra said with an air of elegance. And you're more suited to hands-on jobs. My whole being exploded. I yelled out loud for the very first time. It's all mine. My mom gave it to me. You lied to her, Dad. You're the one who lied. You ungrateful girl, Dad yelled, his face flushed raw. In light of all that we have done for you, rip it up. Your adult life can begin in a different place tomorrow. I skipped tomorrow, hurriedly packing my belongings into my backpack. I sprinted upstairs, retrieved the concealed photo of Mom, and bolted. Now, when things had reached an all-time low, my friend Jenny's promise that I could stay with her family had come true. I barely made ends meet as a waitress after high school, but that wasn't my ideal career path. Before moving on, I worked double shifts whenever possible at the Silver Spoon, a popular restaurant in the downtown area. At least I wasn't tied down, even though my feet hurt every night and my body reeked of burger grease and French fries. I knew I couldn't force my will on Jenny's parents indefinitely, despite how kind they were to let me live with them for the first several months. That's when I crossed across with Maria, another server at the eatery who happened to be on the hunt for a housemate. The apartment's tiny, I was told, and the neighbors are loud, but it's cheap. Regarding small, she was serious. We lived in a cramped apartment with just enough room for 2 beds and a couch, but it was ours and we were both independent. The two of us managed to make it through the week by trading shifts and splitting the shopping expenditure. Any plans for school? Occasionally, Maria would inquire while we tallied our tips following the closing. All I'd do is shake my head. I would be lucky to have any savings after paying rent, electricity, and groceries. I felt as if my college dreams had gone the moment I stepped foot outside my house. My phone then called at an incongruous hour on a Tuesday afternoon. When I saw the number, I nearly let go of the coffee pot that I was holding. "My darling Jenna, you've been my target in my pursuit of you. Am I doing well in college?" My jaw clenched. "I'm not in college, Grandma." "Explain yourself." That was Sarah's inheritance that your father put aside. The argument, the eviction, and my time spent working as a waitress were all things I felt compelled to tell her. I feared we had lost touch with Grandma because she was so quiet for so long as I sobbed in the restaurant break room at the end. As her rage built, she finally spoke, her voice quivering. "Those miserable, selfish," she pleaded. "Jenna, pay attention. This is your college fund. I will not argue." "No, Grandma, I am unable to allow you to." "You're preventing me from taking any action. I'll get it done. I won't allow them to ruin your future since your mom was like a daughter to me. Do you have any school options in mind?" "I might give the nearby university a shot," I whispered. "They have evening classes." "Very well. Next semester we will enroll you." "Jenna, I think we should keep this between us," she said after pausing. "Neither your father nor that wife are people I want to deal with." My laughter cut through the sobs. "Trust me, Grandma, neither do I." I ended up working as a waiter full-time while still going to school part-time. Beginning at 5 in the morning, I study, attend classes, and then go straight to work until the office closes. After a long day at the restaurant, my feet would be blistered and smelled like fried food, but I would still return home and pick up my books. I was considered insane by Maria. "Girl, when do you sleep?" With a playful remark, "Sleep is for the weak," I gulped down my 3rd cup of coffee. I experienced a sense of advancement that had eluded me since my departure from home. Not only did I feel good about passing each exam and turning in each paper, but Mom did too. I would still receive the education she had hoped for, even if I would not have been able to use her money. Plus, what's great, none of my relatives were aware. For all they knew, they probably thought I was stuck in a lifeless rut serving tables. Permit them to think so. Who cared about my worth anyway? I had had enough of trying to prove it to them. When Emma's remark appeared on Facebook, I was studying for my final in business administration. She was standing next to a shiny red Mercedes, beaming and dressed in fine clothes that would have put me out of pocket every month. My parents surprised me with this wonderful birthday present. Not that you'd have any idea what good automobiles are, would you? Is the burger menu still up? It must be entertaining to see other people enjoying life to the fullest while you're confined to your role as a waitress indefinitely. Next up came a snapshot of her letter of admittance to college. Achieve statehood. My parents are covering all of my expenses, including tuition, housing, and the meal plan. They went so far as to offer me a European spring break trip. You do get complimentary fries with your shift dinner, though, don't you? My eyes darted between her message and my textbook. My 3.9 GPA and impending graduation with honors are details I could have shared with her. I reverted to my study habits after selecting block user. I earned my bachelor's degree in business 3 weeks later. The fact that Grandma was the only one present to see my stage walk was more than enough for me. Afterwards, we went to a different place for dinner. Things began to shift as I returned to my job. I was summoned to the owner's office by Mr. Peterson early one morning. "Jenna, your diligence has been noted. Is the idea of being a shift manager anything that interests you? You have extensive knowledge of the place. The personnel holds you in high regard, and you have the necessary education." That was only the first step. My promotion to floor administrator came 6 months after that. I was able to finally afford to leave the cramped apartment I lived with Maria when my pay quadrupled. I continued to climb as the years went by. I was the one in charge by the time I was 30. From its humble beginnings as a downtown eatery, the Silver Spoon had grown into one of the best restaurants in town. Even if my name appeared in publications aimed at the restaurant sector, my family continued to view me as only a waiter. I recently moved into an apartment in a posh downtown high-rise with windows that stretched from floor to ceiling, offering breathtaking views of the city below. As I sat there with my coffee in hand, seeing the sunrise, I would constantly remind myself of how far I had gone from being that terrified youngster who fled with nothing more than a backpack. Our former neighbor, Mrs. Roberts, sent me a Facebook message on a peaceful Monday morning. Over the years, we remained in touch, since she was one of the few individuals from my past who had treated me with kindness. She helped me hide my mom's photo album from Sandra once, and she often gave me cookies when Sandra was being really mean. "I felt you should know, Jenna, my darling. Emma has some nefarious plans, and she's graduating next week. At the Silver Spoon, she has already made a reservation. She is aware that you are employed there. She can't stop gushing about how she plans to have you serve as her personal waiter. College dropout sister will serve as her celebratory server, she claims. Everyone from her posh circle of acquaintances to a few of our former neighbors have been invited. Her plan to prove to everyone how much of a failure you were has been in the works for some time. Surely you must be aware of this." Leaning back in my plush office chair, I peered through the one-way glass at the restaurant level below. My well-trained team moved between tables like a well-choreographed dance as the lunch rush was just starting. As I accessed our reservation system, a gentle grin gradually crept onto my face. There it was, Emma Wilson's graduation party, with 15 guests, this coming Saturday at 7 o'clock. The best table in the house, price is no object. She had even sent a handwritten note requesting this. I held the keyboard in my hands. I can terminate the agreement. With only a single click, their reservation would vanish. I could arrange for Janet to phone and make up an explanation about a double reservation or a plumbing emergency. But no, one of my ideas was better. On the second ring, Grandma picked up the phone when I dialed her number. She was most likely tending to her beloved flowers in her garden, where she kept her phone close at all times. "You have no idea who's dining at my restaurant," I remarked when she returned my call. She asked, "Who?" with a hint of intrigue. "Emma, please. My father as well. Sandra also. Her graduation is the reason they're calling. It would seem that she had this particular spot in mind to embarrass her waitress sister. I was just warned about it by Mrs. Roberts." Grandma's tone became abrasive. "Remove their booking. Jenna, you don't require that type of negativity in your life. Surely they've caused you enough pain." A grin spread across my face as I beheld the framed Businesswoman of the Year trophy displayed on my wall. "My suggestion is superior. For dinner that night, what time works best for you? Take a seat behind the marble column near the wall of the waterfall. It's the greatest table in the house. Everything will be visible to you, but they will be unable to see you." Grandma chuckled, that deep, naughty laugh that used to portend trouble whenever I was a kid. After a moment of silence, "You sneaky girl, you. I am interested. Will my pearls be appropriate for this event?" "Just right. Carlos can whip up a chocolate souffle that you'll love. That new raspberry sauce he made last time was delicious, and he's been honing his skills." Bringing her camera, Grandma said with a laugh, "This is going to be better than those reality TV shows you used to watch." I summoned my helper, Janet, after we ended the call. "Clear my schedule for next Saturday evening and make sure the staff knows I'll be handling a special table personally." "Yes, Miss Wilson, of course. Is there anything else you require?" "Yes," I said with a smile as I ran my finger along the spine of the certificate I had earned for business management. It was lying on the wall. "Get Miguel to whip up his signature caviar appetizers and our best champagne. It seems like tonight is going to be an unforgettable experience." I couldn't help but think how great this was as I gazed out over my restaurant once more. Little power plays and her attempts to embarrass me were always Emma's favorite things to do. At least I was prepared this time because she was walking straight into my domain. As the sun began to set on Saturday night, the restaurant was as lively as ever. From my workplace, I witnessed the arrival of my sister's party, Emma in an extravagant gown that likely cost more than most people's monthly pay, Sandra sporting her usual heavy-handed makeup, and Dad appearing older than I recalled. A group of well-dressed acquaintances of Emma's encircled them. I caught a glimpse of Grandma at her secret table, acting as if she were perusing the menu as she observed the proceedings. As I walked by, she winked at me subtly. "Excuse me." Throughout the eatery, Emma's booming voice resounded. I asked expressly for Jenna, my sister, to be our server. "Tell me where she is." I brought my tailored suit jacket to a smooth surface and went over to their table. Upon seeing me, Emma's face glowed with a mischievous glee. She addressed the group and said, "Oh my God, this is my sister I was telling you about," as if I were a zoo exhibit. We all looked shocked. And here she is, a waitress even after all this time. I mean, I'm still holding my diploma from state, and she's not even done yet. After Emma started laughing, the whole table joined in. Even Dad couldn't look me in the eyes while he chuckled. Sandra merely sat there, her smug expression bringing back a flood of memories. "Check out her outfits," Emma murmured to her companions on stage. "I guess that's what you can afford on a waitress's salary." As I stood there in my suit by Armani, I let them to make fun of me. I couldn't help but notice the irony. "What can I get for you this evening?" Professionally, I inquired. Emma pretended to peruse the menu. "So I'll go with the lobster thermometer since you specifically requested it." "Hold on a minute." Faking worry, she glanced up. "Is it even possible for you to dine at this establishment? So you're familiar with lobster, right?" Her pals continued to laugh awkwardly, but several were clearly embarrassed. And after supper, Emma added, her voice betraying her disdain, "I would like it if you would wash our dishes by hand. A generous tip is even in my power. Perhaps it's time to treat yourself to some nice clothing." It was as if Grandma were clenching the edge of her table with such force that her knuckles became white. Evidently embarrassed by Emma's actions, a few of the visitors were muttering to each other. Sandra raised her voice to speak, her tone distant. "Really, Jenna, you should be grateful Emma chose your establishment for her celebration, though I must say I'm surprised they hired someone like you at such a nice place." "Actually," I declared with an unfaltering grin, "I will not be able to fulfill your order or clean your dishes this evening." The expression on Emma's face turned threatening. "You won't? What do you mean by that?" "I need to talk to the boss at your company. Right now." "I'll have you fired." "That won't be necessary," I remarked in a casual tone. "The manager is already here." "Well, where are they?" Emma looked around and demanded. "You're looking at her." Absolute quiet descended upon the table. Emma's jaw fumbled with words, like if she were a fish out of water. Sandra appeared as though she had ingested something unpleasant, and Dad's face had turned entirely white. That's impossible," Emma eventually said. "You lied. Oh, you're merely a waitress." Actually, a voice that seemed familiar said, "She's more than simply the manager. Currently, she holds a 30% stake in this eatery." With her shoes clicking on the marble floor, Grandma rose from her concealed table and made her way over. She might have frozen Dad in his tracks with that expression. "While you were busy spoiling one daughter and crushing the other, I put Jenna through college." In her spare time, she attended classes in business management while working as a waitress here. She is the one who deserves all the credit for her achievements. A flushed Emma leaped to her feet. "That's wrong. That's not true. She's nothing but a successful businesswoman who owns part of one of the city's most prestigious restaurants," said Grandma. "Who went out and purchased herself a fancy condo while you're still relying on your dad's wealth. Did you intend to say that?" Dad discovered his voice at last. "Mom, I don't." "You dare, Johnny Wilson." Finally, Grandma lost her cool. "You let that woman to manipulate you into betraying your own daughter. You misappropriated Jenna's college fund, funds bequeathed to her by her mother." "Well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to fix this. My intentions have already changed. My possessions are all going to Jenna. All of the money." Suddenly, Sandra leaped out of her chair. "That is impossible. Your granddaughter Emma is also mine." "Everything has been given to Emma for free her whole life," Grandma said with a chill. "She doesn't need my money, though from what I've seen tonight, she could use some basic human decency." Emma utterly snapped. A flurry of plates and food were splattered when she snatched her wine glass and threw it across the table. "I demand justice. You're all simply envious of me." I named out security in a calm and collected manner. Without delay, a pair of black-suited men materialized. "Please escort these people out." "You can't throw us out." "Sandra," she yelled out, "do you know who we are?" With a "yes, I do," I responded. "You're invading my restaurant and making a nuisance of yourselves. You better get out of here quickly before I report the damage to my property and file charges." A security guard grabbed Emma's arm as she reached for another plate. They were all escorted to the door, and Dad remained motionless, appearing bewildered. "A feeble Jenna." He echoed back, "Dear, could we have a conversation?" My back turned to them, and I strode away. He made a number more attempts over the following months, including phone calls, emails, and even a single in-person visit to the eatery. I instructed security to reject him. The time has passed since then. Now that I've opened 2 additional locations of the Silver Spoon, it's the best restaurant in town. Gran remains steadfast in her pledge regarding the will. Fortunately, she is 75 years old and going strong, taking care of her garden and making Sunday trips to the restaurant for her chocolate souffle. Another communication from Emma came to me last week, some aspect of her desire to make amends and her transformation. When dealing with signals from that time in my life, I did what I normally do. I returned to my work after hitting delete. Sometimes it's best to close a chapter.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and while my career as a business consultant keeps me busy, my true pride is my family, my foster kids, whom I'm in the process of adopting. Are you sure about this, Jennifer? Foster kids come with so much baggage. My brother David remarked when I started the process 5 years ago. I still remember his condescending smile across the dinner table. Not everyone needs a biological connection to love their children. David, I shot back, already tired of his judgment. That was the beginning of my journey with Emily and Kevin. Emily was a quiet 11-year-old who loved reading medical encyclopedias, while 9-year-old Kevin could already code better than most adults I knew. They had been through 4 homes before me, but I wanted them to feel secure. "Miss Jennifer, are we really staying?" Emily asked that first night, clutching her worn backpack. "As long as you want to, sweetheart. This is your home now." My best friend, Rachel, has been my rock through everything. Girl, you're more of a natural mother than half the PTA moms, she told me last week while helping Emily with her science project. These little moments, Kevin bursting into my home office to show me his coding competition trophy, Emily telling me about her latest science project, make all the extra consulting jobs worth it. Every extra dollar I earn goes into their college funds. That's amazing, buddy. Harvard better watch out, I told Kevin, seeing his eyes light up. Then there's my brother David and his wife, Sandra, with their perfect biological children and massive house. Oh, how charitable of you. Sandra says at every family event, like my choice to foster is some quaint, disposable hobby. At our last barbecue, I overheard her whisper to another mom. They're not really family, it's more like long-term babysitting. My parents try to be supportive, but David always seems to have their ear. We just worry about your future, Mom told me yesterday. Real children might still be possible. I took a deep breath. They are real children, Mom. They're my children. I'm pouring everything into giving Emily and Kevin the life they deserve. Emily dreams of becoming a doctor, and Kevin talks about studying computer engineering. My babies are going places, and no one, not David, not Sandra, no one is going to stand in their way. One night, Emily hugged me after I helped her with her biology homework. You're the best thing that ever happened to us, she whispered. I held her tight, thinking of all the nights I prayed for a family. I never knew I could love this fiercely, but here we are, my perfect chosen family. But lately, David's been acting strange whenever the topic of money or inheritance comes up. And I have a bad feeling. At our last family dinner, I was telling Mom about Emily's perfect essay scores when David cleared his throat, giving me a smug smile. You know, it's cute how you're playing house with these temporary kids, but let's be real, they're not actually going to inherit anything, right? The table went silent. Emily's fork clattered against her plate. What did you just say about my children? I asked, barely containing my anger. Oh, come on, Jennifer. They're foster kids. You're just their current guardian. Mom, Dad, you can't seriously be thinking of putting them in the will. I watched Kevin's face crumble as Sandra smirked behind her wine glass. Actually, David, I'm in the final stages of adopting them both, I said firmly. Those college funds you're setting up are a waste of money, David sneered. They'll probably drop out anyway. Statistics, you know. Emily ran from the table, and Kevin followed, tears in his eyes. Later that week, I heard Sandra at school pick up, mocking me again. Poor Jennifer, so desperate for a family she'll take in anyone's leftovers. I was about to confront her when my phone rang. It was Rachel. Jennifer, you need to hear this. David's been at the country club, telling everyone how unstable your kids are and making up stories about their pasts. My stomach sank, but nothing prepared me for what came next. Michael, a colleague, called. Jennifer, David was asking about your accounts at the bank today, specifically the kids' college funds. He seemed really interested in how they're structured. That night, Emily came to me. Mom, I heard Uncle David on the phone in the garden. He was talking to a lawyer about contesting inheritance rights for adopted children. I hugged her tight. Baby, no one is taking anything from you. The final straw came during a family meeting about our parents' estate. David brought his lawyer along. These foster arrangements are temporary by nature, the lawyer droned. It would be unwise to include non-family members in any permanent financial plans. They're not temporary, I snapped, slamming my hand on the table. And I'm more family than you'll ever be. David sneered. Face reality, Jennifer. You're not their real mother. You never will be. That night, as I tucked Kevin into bed, as Kevin's small voice trembled, he asked, Are we temporary, Mom? I pulled him close and called Emily into the room. Listen to me, both of you. Family isn't about blood. It's about love. You are my children forever, and no one can change that. But as I lay awake that night, a gnawing unease crept in. David's sudden interest in the college funds, his obsession with the inheritance. Something wasn't right. I had to find out what was really going on, even if it meant exposing my own brother. What I didn't realize was that David had secrets, big ones, and they were about to unravel. The first piece fell into place when Michael pulled me aside at work. Remember how interested David was in those college funds? I did some digging, and he's in serious trouble. Hundreds of thousands in gambling debt, Jennifer. My hands shook as I scanned the documents he'd found. David, the golden boy, was drowning. And the worst part? Your parents' retirement accounts look suspicious too, Michael pointed out. Large withdrawals, all traced to David's accounts. My stomach churned. David was stealing from our parents. Later that week, I had a surprise visitor. Maria, Emily, and Kevin's biological aunt. I heard what your brother's been saying about the kids. It's not right, she said. I signed away my rights because I knew they'd have a better life with you. I want to help. Over coffee, Maria shared more. Sandra approached me last month, offered me money to contest the adoption, said it would be better for everyone. My phone buzzed. It was Rachel. You won't believe this, Jennifer. Sandra's running a real estate scam, taking deposits for properties she doesn't even own. I recorded everything, building my case, but the next bombshell hit closer to home. Emily came home one day, tears streaming down her face. Uncle David told Grandma and Grandpa that Kevin and I are stealing from them. He said that's why money keeps disappearing from their accounts. I held her close. Baby, I promise you, the truth will come out. That night, David showed up drunk at my house. Just give me access to those college funds, Jennifer. I can double the money in a week, triple it even. I pressed record on my phone. Like you doubled Mom and Dad's retirement money? I asked. He sneered. Those old fools don't need it anyway. And those brats of yours don't deserve it. Yeah, I took their money, all of it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Get out of my house. As he stumbled away, I called Michael. I got it all on record. But Sandra wasn't done. She cornered me at the grocery store. Listen here, charity case. Those kids will never be real Mitchells. Back off from the inheritance or I'll make sure everyone knows about their troubled past. Oh, you mean like your fake real estate deals, Sandra? Her face drained of color. That evening, Maria called. Jennifer, I've kept records of every conversation with Sandra, every bribe offer, every threat. I'm ready to go public. That night, I sat with Emily and Kevin. Remember when you asked if you were temporary? Well, I have proof now of who's really temporary in this family. And it's not you two. Kevin hugged me tight. We knew you'd protect us, Mom. As I watched them do their homework, my phone lit up with a message from Michael. The company board wanted a meeting about David's activities. Sandra's real estate victims were organizing. The house of cards was finally about to fall, and this time, I wasn't going to stop it. I looked at the adoption papers on my desk, nearly complete. Let them try to fight this. I had truth on my side, and karma was finally coming to collect. Everything exploded on a Tuesday. David was in a board meeting when the anonymous evidence landed in every director's inbox. According to Michael, who was there, David's face went from red to ghostly white in seconds. Get out of this building, David. Security will escort you. The CEO's voice echoed down the hall. By Wednesday, Sandra's real estate scam hit the local news, her face plastered everywhere as victims came forward. That evening, my parents arrived at my door, devastated. Jennifer, we found out about the retirement accounts. All these years, David was, my mom trailed off, horrified. And those college funds he wanted? They're now double, thanks to your grandparents. I told my kids that night that our adoption hearing was scheduled for Friday. David and Sandra made one last desperate attempt in court. Your Honor, these children have a biological aunt who, David began. But Maria stepped forward, undeterred. I fully support Jennifer as their mother, and I have documentation of their attempts to bribe me right here. The judge brought down the gavel. Congratulations, Miss Mitchell. They are officially your children. Fast forward 5 years, and I'm watching Emily pack for medical school. She got a full ride to Johns Hopkins. Harvard's computer science department is already recruiting Kevin for when he graduates next year. Hey Mom, guess who's working at Target now? Kevin showed me his phone, where a very tired-looking David was wearing a red vest and stocking shelves. And Sandra's doing midnight shifts at Walmart in Arizona. Emily added with a smirk. Guess karma doesn't take credit cards. My parents moved closer to us after everything, and now they've never been closer to their grandchildren. We were so blind, Mom said one Sunday dinner. But look at what you've built, Jennifer, a real family. Rachel raised her glass. To the best mom I know, who showed us all what family truly means. Michael, now more than just a colleague, squeezed my hand under the table. Last week, I received a letter from David, a rambling apology claiming he changed and missed his family. I didn't even open it, just as I ignored Sandra's letters begging for money to avoid bankruptcy. Some bridges are better left burned. Mom, Emily called from the kitchen. We're making your favorite lasagna. As I watched my kids laughing and cooking, tossing cheese at each other, I thought about how sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to our best lives. David and Sandra thought they could tear us apart, but they only made us stronger. Kevin hugged me from behind. Thanks for fighting for us, Mom. Always, baby, always. And that's how my story of justice ends, not with revenge, but with success. My kids are thriving, our family is closer than ever, and those who tried to hurt us? Well, karma has its own way of handling that. What would you do if a family member tried to steal your children's future? Could you forgive them, or are some betrayals simply unforgivable? Share your thoughts below. Hey everyone, I'm Amanda. 3 years ago, I was living my dream as a physical therapist at the premier rehabilitation center in downtown Chicago. My career was flourishing, and my marriage to Matthew Turner, a charming real estate agent, felt like a fairy tale. But fairy tales, as I soon learned, can turn into nightmares. Amanda, you're amazing with the patience, my colleague said one morning as I helped Mr. Rodriguez regain his walking strength. Thanks, I replied, smiling. I love seeing their progress. Little did I know that my own life would soon need rehabilitation. That evening, as I prepared dinner in our modern apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, Matthew dropped another financial bomb. Babe, Mom needs help with some family investments again this month, he said casually. I froze, knife hovering over the cutting board. Matthew, that's the 3rd time this month. What happened to last week's transfer? His charming facade cracked. Don't question my mother's decisions, he snapped. She knows what's best for our future. My brother Mark had warned me about Matthew's controlling behavior. Sis, something's not adding up with their finances, he'd said during our weekly coffee meetup. But I defended Matthew, convinced that love could conquer all. The real wake-up call came when Henry Chen, Matthew's business partner, caught me in the office parking lot. Amanda, we need to talk, he whispered, glancing around nervously. I've noticed some irregularities in Matthew's client accounts. My best friend Mary noticed my distress over lunch. Amanda, you've lost weight. What's really going on? She pressed. Patricia keeps demanding more money every month, I confided. She calls it family support, but won't show any investment returns. That's financial abuse, Mary said firmly. Have you checked your joint accounts lately? I hadn't, but her words sparked something in me. That night, I logged into our banking app, and the truth hit me like a tidal wave. Thousands were missing, transferred to unknown accounts. When I confronted Matthew, his eyes turned cold. You're being ungrateful, he hissed. After everything my mother's done for us? Little did I know, this was only the beginning. The incident on the highway was coming, the night that would change everything. But for now, watching Matthew storm out of our apartment, I felt the first stirrings of strength. Something wasn't right, and I was determined to find out what. Henry's warning echoed in my mind. Amanda, be careful. They're not who you think they are. The next morning, I sat in my office at the rehabilitation center, staring at my phone banking app in disbelief. Another $5,000 had vanished from our joint account overnight. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the transaction history, dozens of transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Amanda, dear, Patricia's shrill voice startled me through the phone. We need another $110,000 for a promising investment opportunity. Patricia, I need to understand where the previous money went first, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Are you questioning my judgment after everything I've done for this family? Her tone turned icy. Matthew won't be happy about this. That evening, Henry showed up at my office after hours. He closed the door quietly behind him. Amanda, I found something disturbing, he said, his face pale. Matthew has been showing the same property to multiple buyers, collecting deposits from all of them. What are you saying? He's running a scam. And those investments your mother-in-law keeps demanding? They're not real. I've seen the paperwork. I began secretly photographing bank statements and saving incriminating emails. Mark helped me set up hidden cameras in my home office. The footage revealed Matthew sneaking in late at night, rifling through my personal documents. One evening, driving back from visiting my parents, Matthew suddenly pulled over on a deserted highway. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty road. "You've been talking to Henry, haven't you?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "I have a right to know where our money is going." "Get out," he snarled, grabbing my arm. "Matthew, we're miles from anywhere." I said get out. He shoved me out of the car, threw my purse after me, and sped away, leaving me stranded in the growing darkness. Coyotes howled in the distance as the temperature plummeted, and my phone had no signal. Just as panic began to set in, headlights appeared on the horizon. My heart raced until I recognized Mary's car. She jumped out, running toward me. "Amanda, thank goodness," Henry called me. He overheard Matthew's plans at the office. Back at Mary's house, I discovered even more shocking news. My credit cards were maxed out with charges I never made. Matthew had opened accounts in my name. "Look at this," Mary pointed to her laptop screen. Multiple complaints against Matthew's real estate dealings flooded a legal forum. Elderly couples had lost their life savings. "There's more," Henry texted me later that night. I found documents linking Patricia to properties registered under different names. That night, instead of feeling defeated, something inside me hardened into steel. They thought they could break me, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. I grabbed my phone and dialed a number that would change everything. "Mark, remember that private investigator friend of yours? I need their help. It's time to show Matthew and Patricia what happens when you mess with the wrong woman." The pieces were falling into place, but I had no idea that what I discovered was just the tip of the iceberg. The real shock was still to come, a revelation that would shake our entire community to its core. A week later, the private investigator's report landed on my desk with a heavy thud. My hands shook as I flipped through page after page of evidence. Matthew and Patricia hadn't just scammed me. They'd orchestrated a massive real estate fraud scheme targeting vulnerable people across 3 states. "Amanda, you need to see this," Mark said, pulling up security footage on his laptop. The video showed Matthew and Patricia at Golden Sunset Retirement Community, sweet-talking elderly residents into investing their life savings in non-existent properties. My phone buzzed. A text from Pamela, Matthew's sister. "We need to talk." "Not here. Meet me at the Bluebird Cafe in 20 minutes. At the cafe, Pamela's face was pale. "Amanda, it's worse than you think. Mom's been using your salary to cover her casino losses. She owes dangerous people a lot of money." Just then, Henry rushed in, clutching a manila envelope. "I found these in the office safe. Fake property deeds, forged signatures, multiple sales of the same properties. They've been doing this for years." As if on cue, my phone rang. It was Matthew. "Baby, I've been thinking. Let's work this out. I miss you. Can we meet to talk about our joint account?" "You mean the account you drained?" I kept him talking while Mark recorded the call. "That was a misunderstanding," he stammered. "I can explain everything." But my focus shifted when a familiar voice caught my attention from the next booth. "Yes, Mrs. Turner promised us oceanfront property in Arizona. We invested our entire retirement fund," cried Karen Martinez, a former patient of mine. My blood ran cold. They were targeting my own patients. Back at Mark's place, we spread out all the evidence: property documents, bank statements, victim testimonies. Henry had uncovered a network of fake companies, all leading back to Matthew and Patricia. "Look at this," Mary pointed to her computer screen. "They're still collecting deposits for that Highland Park development. The land doesn't even exist." Suddenly, my phone exploded with notifications. Matthew had tried to access my new private account 6 times in the last hour. Then, a text from Pamela. "They know you're gathering evidence. Be careful. Mom's talking about fleeing the country." The doorbell rang, and we all froze. Through the security camera, we saw Karen Martinez and 5 other victims standing on the porch, holding papers. "We saw your name on some documents," Karen said when we let them in. "We want to help expose them." I looked around at the determined faces: my brother, my best friend, Henry, Pamela, and now these brave victims. Matthew and Patricia thought they were untouchable, but they'd never faced a united front like this. My phone buzzed again. An email from the state real estate board. They wanted to meet tomorrow. "Ready?" Mark asked, gathering the evidence files. I straightened my spine. They picked the wrong woman to scam. The real estate board meeting turned into a full-blown investigation. I watched from the back row as Karen Martinez testified, her voice strong despite her tears. The Turners took everything we had saved for 40 years. Matthew burst through the doors, desperation etched on his face. Amanda, please, we can work this out privately. There's nothing to work out, Matthew. The evidence speaks for itself. Henry stepped forward, laying out document after document, multiple sales of non-existent properties, forged signatures, fake investment schemes. Pamela stood up, trembling but resolute. I have to tell the truth. Mom and Matthew have done this before in other states. They just changed their company names and moved on. The board's decision was unanimous. Matthew's license was permanently revoked, but that was just the beginning. The local news broke the story. Prominent real estate agent and mother in massive fraud scheme. The phones started ringing. More victims came forward. More evidence piled up. Matthew made one last desperate move, showing up at my new apartment. I've changed, Amanda. I'll pay everything back. Just drop the charges. Like you paid back the elderly couples you robbed? The families whose homes you stole. Save it for the judge, Matthew. 3 months later, I stood in front of my new rehabilitation center. The sign read Phoenix Recovery, where healing begins. Mary and Mark stood beside me, beaming with pride. The news coverage continued. Matthew and Patricia faced multiple fraud charges, their assets frozen. The fancy house, the luxury cars, all gone. They couldn't even afford decent lawyers. Pamela visited me at the center one day. They're completely broke, she said. Mom's facing years in prison, and Matthew? He's working at a fast food joint, trying to pay back his debts. And you? I asked, smiling. Starting fresh, helping other fraud victims rebuild their lives, just like you. They thought they could destroy me, but instead, I rose from the ashes stronger than ever, and now I'm helping others do the same. My center flourished, transforming into a haven for survivors of both physical and financial trauma. Mary managed our outreach program, bringing in new patients and spreading hope, while Mark headed up our legal support services, helping countless fraud victims reclaim their lives. 1 year later, I stood at my office window, watching as Matthew shuffled past in his fast food uniform. He looked old, defeated, a shell of the man who once manipulated and betrayed me. Patricia was serving her sentence, her reputation in tatters while their empire crumbled to dust. Miss Mitchell, my assistant, poked her head in. The governor's office called. They want you to head the new fraud prevention task force. I smiled, my fingers brushing against the plaque on my wall. Phoenix Recovery, rising stronger. That's exactly what I did. I rose from their ashes and built something beautiful. The center was packed for our first anniversary celebration. Former patients shared their recovery stories, each tale a testament to resilience and healing. Karen Martinez, the woman who once lost everything to Matthew's schemes, walked across the stage unassisted to thunderous applause. You did it, Amanda, Mary whispered, pulling me into a tight hug. You turned their evil into something good. I looked out at the crowd, my brother, my best friend, my patients, my dedicated staff. I felt nothing but peace. Matthew and Patricia thought they could break me, but instead, they made me unbreakable. And that's my story. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best transformations. You just have to stay strong, gather your evidence, and never let toxic people dim your light. If you're facing toxic relationships or financial abuse, don't suffer in silence. There's always a way out, and karma has a way of catching up with those who wrong you. Today, Phoenix Recovery has 3 locations across the state. We've helped hundreds rebuild their lives, both physically and emotionally. Our legal support program, led by Mark, has brought justice to countless fraud victims. Just last week, I received a letter from Patricia, begging for forgiveness from prison. I didn't open it. Some bridges are better left burned. Matthew? He's still working at that fast food place, living in a tiny studio apartment. Occasionally, he watches my success from afar, but he knows better than to approach. As for Pamela, she's become a powerful advocate for fraud prevention, sharing our story at conferences nationwide. Have you ever faced someone who tried to destroy you, only to find their actions led you to a better life? What was your turning point from being a victim to becoming a victor? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else find their strength. Think about it. Would Amanda have built her successful rehabilitation centers if Matthew and Patricia hadn't pushed her to her breaking point? Sometimes our greatest achievements rise from our darkest moments.